In this video, I'm going to be sharing 10 tips how you can travel on a budget, so stay tuned. My husband and I really enjoy traveling, and I feel like over the years we have learned a thing or two about traveling, how to travel on a budget, and I'm excited to share what we've learned with you guys. Now, before we jump into the 10 tips, I just want to say today I'm collaborating with Christine and her husband Benny from the YouTube channel Real Organized. Their channel is all about organization, helping young families overcome the clutter that comes with children. You're gonna get so overwhelmed when you have children and toys and messes and clutter, and their YouTube channel is all about that and how you can overcome clutter in your house, stay organized so that you can live a happy life. They do a really good job at editing. They're very fun to watch. I think they deserve more subscribers. Head on over to their channel, show them some love. Today they're doing a video on how to keep your family organized while traveling. So links will be in the description. Make sure to go and check that out after you watch this one. So before we jump into the 10 tips, I just wanted to share that recently, actually it's almost a year ago now, my husband and I went to Paris for our 6th anniversary. We had one of the best trips of our life, and we only spent approximately $550 per person, which came out to a little over $1,000 for a week-long trip in one of the most expensive cities in the world. So I'm going to share with you how we do this and how we're still able to travel now and then even though we're on a budget. So let's jump right into it. Tip number 1 is you need to be intentional. So often we as people, we go on vacation and we have this mindset that we don't need to worry about anything. We're on vacation, we're not going to worry about finances, we're not going to worry about our work, we're just going to go have a good time, relax, take a break. That's what vacation is all about, right? And while that's true, it's to de-stress from life and rejuvenate. If you just pay no mind to anything, you will spend so much money. And you come home and you feel sick in your gut when you realize how much money you spent on a trip because you didn't do planning. This has happened to us, and it completely takes the joy out of a trip when you realize how much money you spent, and when you look back on it, it kind of clouds the fun you had. So on our Paris trip, we actually sat down and decided, you know what, we want to spend X amount of dollars on this trip, and we figured out everything down to the little nitty-gritty, and we had a daily budget, believe it or not, and we tried to stay within that budget. Before you're like, oh come on, who wants a budget on a trip? I'm telling you, it was actually a lot of fun, for us anyway. And when we came away from that trip and we hit that budget within like $100, it just felt so good. We had so many good experiences, and we had done it on a budget, and it was just incredible. One more thing I wanted to clarify is most of these points that I'm talking about, I'm referring to out-of-country trip. I'm from the US, so whatever country you're from, I am referring to actually leaving the country and going and experiencing other cultures and other countries. These tips would also apply for US travel, but just to clarify, in my mind, I'm referring to out-of-country trips. For tip number 2 is be flexible. Now I know this isn't possible for everyone, and sometimes you have a destination in mind and you're actually going to a specific place. But my husband and I have found a lot of fun in the possibilities of just having a wide open option of where you want to spend your vacation. So this opens up the door to a lot of opportunities that you would have never thought of before. So airlines will often run discounts or deals, maybe just for a day or for a few hours. Black Friday is another really good day to check for airline discounts. And there's different websites you can go onto. There's one website, I think it's called pomelotravel.com. And if you sign up, you can sign up for free, or you can do like a membership where you get alerts faster. They will send you alerts to your email when there's like good deals from your local airport to anywhere in the world, and you'll get these daily emails and saying, look, there's a short deal going on for tickets to Japan for $400. I have seen some crazy deals, and there's also some great deals depending where you are in the country. You can, you know, go to the Caribbean or some places like that for $100-some. It's just incredible if you're just open and flexible on dates and times and where you want to go. Another website that I really like is Skyscanner, because you can type in your departure airport and then you can click anywhere. Like for your destination, you can click anywhere and it will just scan all the airports and start having like the cheapest destinations first, and you can just scroll through and see deals that are going on. So for our last trip to Paris, this is how we ended up there. Paris wasn't on one of our bucket list destinations, but on a Black Friday I was searching through the tickets, and this deal popped up to Paris for $325 per ticket, which was a crazy good deal. And I have since seen them every now and then for even cheaper than that, for in the 200s. Like seriously, we can hardly fly in the States for that kind of money. Like when we go out to see Nolan's folks, we're spending a lot of money on tickets to fly into that little airport. So to fly all the way over to France for $300 is just incredible. So we talked about it. It was Black Friday. We decided, you know what, we're going to jump on board and do this. And we booked them for a year in advance. We booked them for our next anniversary. So if you can be flexible, it just opens up so much opportunity and adventure. And it just, for us, we just love it. Tip number 3 is do your research. Before you book or before you head off to a destination, make sure you understand where you're going, the culture you're going to, your currency exchange rate. Understand like kind of the cost of living there, what you're looking at. Is it, you know, less expensive than where you live or more expensive? Because when you get there, you don't want surprises. I'm telling you, you want to take out all the surprises you can, because traveling has a way of doing that. But the more you travel and the more you start kind of learning how to do your research, the easier it gets. So I was told that going to Paris, maybe we have cheap tickets to Paris, but it's just going to be crazy insane to stay in Paris. And while that's partly true, I was still determined that we could go and enjoy Paris on a budget. All right, so tip number 4, when you're traveling, obviously lodging is one of your bigger expenses. My favorite place is booking through Airbnb. Love this website. So Airbnb is run by a bunch of different people. I could sign up to be an Airbnb host if I had a place to lodge someone, and people go on there, they leave their reviews, and you can judge off of people's reviews whether it's a good place to stay at or not. Now I know some people do not enjoy staying in a home with someone else, like if you just have a room in someone's home, but there is a section on the website where you can go and just check that you want the whole place to yourself or you want a separate apartment, and there are a lot of those options on Airbnb. So the really awesome thing about renting a bed and breakfast, besides saving money, is you get a unique experience, you get to meet new people, and you get immersed a lot more into the culture than you would otherwise if you were, say, staying at a hotel or a resort. Referring back to our Paris trip, on average, to stay in Paris, especially in the beautiful area of Paris, you're looking at, on the low end, spending around $200 per night. We found a bed and breakfast for, I believe it was $70 a night, which is incredible. And this is actually a little bit more expensive than we normally like to spend on bed and breakfast. Like, we hunt out cheap stuff. We went to Barbados one time and we found a place for, it was $50 or $40 a night in a little fishing village. Yeah, it was so much better than a resort. You had this little hut all to yourself. No, it was nothing fancy, it was nothing elaborate, but it gave you an experience of the culture. It took you out of the tourist section, and it was just a really fun, unique experience. And yeah, I would just recommend this way of traveling for anyone. Now, tip number 5, this is a little bit off the charts. We haven't done this yet, but we really, really want to try it. If you're an adventurous person and enjoy people, there's a website called stayaway.info. You can go and stay with a family. They usually give you food and lodging, and you work for your stay. Normally, these places you work from 3 to 5 hours a day, and then you have the rest of the day off to go exploring. You have your lodging covered and your food expenses covered mostly, which is the biggest cost of traveling besides your transportation to the place. And you can just go and scroll through thousands and thousands and thousands of hosts, and you can do anything from photography work to website design. You can do manual farm labor, you can do construction, you can just babysit. There is just a host of opportunities, and it is definitely adventurous. It gets you a little bit out of your comfort zone. I know I would be nervous going into it for the first time, but we still would love to try it sometime, because number 1, you get to really be immersed into the culture, and number 2, you get to meet new people, and 3, you get to help people. There is truly something so rewarding about helping other people, and so we'd love to try this, whether it's maybe working in an orphanage or yeah, there's just a host of options, and it's definitely something we want to try sometime. So if you've never heard of it, check it out, stayaway.info. Number 6, avoid tourist traps. I can't stress this enough. Going to touristy places will rob you blind. Pictures are the best souvenirs. Don't stock up on a lot of junk and drag it home. Yeah, we enjoy getting a few things now and then. I really enjoy getting coffee mugs from where we were, because something we can use, something that I can drink out of and remember where we were and what we did. But there was a time I used to love buying all these little trinkets and knickknacks, bring them home. All they do is collect dust. They're not valuable. Take pictures of your experiences and leave the souvenirs behind. Now, besides souvenirs, obviously there's touristy places where you have tours and things to see and all this other stuff. Do your research before you go and decide which places would be really high on your bucket list. Choose those and let the rest alone. Now, some places will give you big discounts if you book online ahead of time. Some places will have certain days that are free to enter, say museums and such. So you can kind of plan around that. And then if all else fails and you still really want to go to a place and it's pretty expensive, then prioritize, work it into your budget, talk together, see what places would mean the most to each of you, you and your spouse, or whoever you're traveling with, and then plan accordingly. So when we first started and we were going to Paris, I was just like, man, I want to go up the Eiffel Tower. I want to go see Palace of Versailles. I want to go to Notre Dame Cathedral. I want to go see the painting of Mona Lisa and all these things that Paris is known for. But when you really stop and think about it, it's like, really, do we want to do all those things? You start researching into it, you realize that to go up the Eiffel Tower, you usually have to stand in line for 2 or 3 hours unless you pay a premium to skip the line. So we're like, you know what, we can just skip going up the tower. It's just as beautiful from the ground, and going up a tower, I mean, all you do is see the city. We can go and look at the city from another outlook for free. Going to Notre Dame was actually free admission. You just walk through it. So we did that. And we decided that one thing we really wanted to see was the Palace of Versailles. And so that was going to be one of our places where we spent more money and took a day to go and see that. I truly feel this is more fun this way. We have done the other way before where you go and try to see everything. You go to all the touristy, popular places to go to. What ends up happening is you run around. You got to see this, you got to see that. You pay to get in here, you pay to get out of there. Your time is running out and you start getting frantic because you want to see everything. You can't quite see everything. You go somewhere and you can't stay long enough to enjoy it because you're thinking about the next thing you want to go see. And it just clutters up your mind and it makes you feel like just desperate because you have this short amount of time, you're in one place and you want to see everything. If you know ahead of time that, you know what, we don't need to see everything, we'll see what we want to see and we'll take our time at these places. It'll save us money, it'll help us have a relaxing vacation, and we'll enjoy it 1,000 times more. Trust me on this. So true. So point number 7 goes along a little bit with the last point I was making. When you travel somewhere, try to pick 1, 2, maybe 3 locations that you'll stay in and stay there. Like I'm talking about lodging for overnight. It goes along with desperately trying to see everything in one place and not having enough time and getting so frantic. We've done this mistake way too many times. We go to a place, like one time we went to Ireland. We wanted to see so many places and do so many things. And it ended up that you look back and you're like, you know what, we were on the road most of the time. You just drive, and then you see this for an hour, and then you drive, and then you see this for an hour, and you can't really relax and enjoy anything. You stay here one night, and then you drive some more, and stay here one night. And while road trips are fun, there is something about just being able to stay in one location for 2 or 3 nights, completely enjoying it. You have a home base for all your luggage, and you can come back and relax if you want to, and then you just go out from there and explore and enjoy. And truly what vacation is about is just relax and unwind and not be wound tight trying to get to see so many more sights. So for tip number 7, just stay in 1 or 2 locations on your trip and don't try to see everything. Tip number 8, don't be afraid to cook some of your own meals. Grocery stores are seriously your best friend. Not only do you get to, once again, get immersed into the culture of the country that you're staying at by going shopping at markets or grocery stores, but you also get to save a lot of money this way. We often cook breakfast wherever we're staying, and we'll buy snacks and things for the road so that throughout the day we have something to eat, whether it's cheeses, fruits, breads, whatever is just easy to carry along, energy bars. And then often in the evenings we'll have our sit-down meal because honestly, going traveling to other places and new cultures, half the fun is experiencing the food because food makes up so much of a culture and speaks so much of the country you're staying at. I just love experiencing new foods. Now obviously, don't be so strict that you can't enjoy it. I'm not saying that you have to just abide by all this at all times. Like we'll buy street food for lunch sometimes, that can be relatively cheap. And sometimes we'll sit down and have a lunch, a lunch meal, and then we'll say, you know what, supper, we'll just grab something off the streets or wherever. Another really great thing about staying at Airbnb is that your host will often tell you of the great little eating spots around town where the locals like to eat, and he'll tell you about bakeries and so on. And so that's another fun thing, going to little bakery shops, cheese shops, wherever, and just stocking up on snacks for the day. A great way to enjoy the culture and save money at the same time. Number 9, pretty explanatory. Skip the taxis, take the bus, take the train. And sometimes actually renting a car is cheaper than taking a bus, especially if you're going a long way across country, or then it'll come out to about the same cost if you plan ahead. Once again, make sure you plan ahead, rent the car ahead of time, and don't forget to check gas prices and if there's going to be a lot of toll, because that definitely figures in. But we often rent cars. We love having the freedom of our own ride, and yeah, depending which country you go to. If it's like a Central American country, the driving down there scares us pretty bad. We haven't tried renting a car there at all. But like European countries and little islands and stuff, we rent cars. Now the last tip, number 10, controversial, but it's like a crucial foundation for our traveling, and that is have a good travel credit card. Now some people, when they hear the word credit card, they're like, never, no way, we won't touch credit cards, and that's good. I'm not bashing that at all, especially people that follow Dave Ramsey and his budgeting strategy. He is very anti-credit card, and I see his point, because you do tend to spend more money on a credit card than you do if you just have cash. If you have a credit card, you have to treat it with respect, and the temptation is always there to spend money that you don't have. And I have fallen to that temptation, and that's why it would be a good thing to only have cash. But here is kind of how we try to do our finances. Just a quick overrun is you don't use your card as a credit card, you use it as a debit card. I try to keep track of all my spending. I'm trying to endeavor to do it every day I spend. I need to get better at that, but I try to do it at least once a week or so. Tally up where you are and where your spending is falling into your budget. We like to try to have the cash for the following month before the month starts, if you know what I mean. So we have a budget plan that we try to stick to. It doesn't always happen, it doesn't always work, but we try to have the money ahead of time, and then we know, we have X amount of dollars to spend in this category, this category, this category, and then we're each responsible for our own categories. When the end of the month comes and your bill comes, hopefully, if you did everything right, you'll have the cash to pay off the card and you're not scrounging for cash. Now we do mess up on this, and it seems sometimes just our bookkeeping doesn't line up and the credit card is more, and I thought, we both thought we wrote everything down and tallied it up. So there is that downside where I know you would spend less if you only had cash strictly. I'm just being honest with y'all. It's not a perfect system, but we really love our credit card. So a couple things, like always keep your big expenses for your card. If you have like a breakdown, like a mechanic, always pay card. If you have like a $500,000 bill, pay it with your credit card. Now obviously if you have the money to pay that off, don't use it as a credit, use it as a debit card. If you have a business and you run transactions through a business, make sure you do it on your credit card. I do this when I do my buying and selling. I'll have a card up here to a video I did about ways I make money as a stay-at-home mom. That really helps add up points. All your monthly bills, your electricity bill, your heating bill, and all these different things, put them on the card. If you have insurance, make sure to pay that on the card. There's so many things that you can do to quickly add points up on your credit card. But once again, treat it with respect. Now, having said all that, what is our favorite credit card? It's the Capital One Venture card. The only downside to this card is it does have a yearly fee of like $60, $59, I believe. A lot of your travel cards will give you like flyer miles or points towards maybe hotels or whatever. But the way I understand is you have to go through their credit card. You have to go through whoever they're working with. So let's say you have a credit card and you want to spend the night somewhere. You have to go through the credit card app to find a place to stay, and usually those prices are way high. Where normally you'd spend like $80 for a hotel, you'd probably spend $150 just because they're using your points towards that hotel. I hope that makes sense. Same with flyer miles. If you have a certain card, you have to go with a certain airline and so on. With Capital One Venture, you do not have to do this. Or the really cool thing is they have what's called a travel eraser. So anything travel related, it's lodging, flying, car rentals, I think there's a few other things, I'm not quite sure what else covered. You can just make the purchase from wherever, and then you can go back later and erase those purchases with your points. So all the points that I mentioned previously, some of the ways that we find deals. You know, you go digging through websites, through Airbnb, or through the various websites that you can find good deals for airlines, and you just use your card to pay it. And then when you go to the statement, you go to your points into the travel eraser, and it'll recognize that as a travel expense, and then you can use your points towards that. So you don't have to go through the credit cards companies to actually get your deals, and this saves so much money because I can scrounge around, find the good deals, find cheap deals, and then just go and use my points towards those deals. So when we went to Paris, we had our tickets completely paid for. I believe we had all of our lodging paid for. And I believe we had our entire car rental paid for. So the rest that we were left with was just food expenses and travel expenses within the country, besides like fuel, like gas and toll and so on when we were traveling in the car, and train tickets and whatever we were doing for touristy stuff. So that's how we were able to go and enjoy such incredible places for so cheap. We did splurge on a few things. It wasn't like we were that tight that we just couldn't have fun. We decided one day we're going to spend the extra money and do a hop-on, hop-off boat tour where you could just go up and down the Seine River and get from one place to the next by boat. That was so much fun. And then we just tried to adjust our budget the next day to compensate for that. We really wanted to do something special for our anniversary. And so before we left, we booked a dinner cruise on the Seine River. It was at night. Beautiful. It was in a glass boat, and it was about a 2-hour cruise that you just went up and down the river and got to see Paris by night while you're eating just incredible cuisine. Anyway, it was one of our favorite moments, and that was expensive. That was like a $150 cruise. But once again, I believe the points helped cover that. I forget how it all worked. Don't count me on that 100%. But there was a few things that we did like that. So we didn't spend our entire time in Paris. By the way, there's cards up here to a playlist. I recorded the entire trip. So if you're interested in seeing our trip to Paris and the Normandy D-Day beaches, you can click the link over here. But Nolan's a big history buff and really wanted to see the D-Day beaches, and so that's when we rented a car. I believe we had 3 nights in Paris, and then we rented a car and drove out to Normandy. Now this is where we made a slight mistake when I had talked earlier about do not stay in more places than 1 or 2 places. We should have just picked the second place to stay. We rushed a little bit. I really, really wanted to see Mont Saint Michel, which is this absolutely gorgeous monastery that's built, it's just beautiful. So we drove there, got there that evening, and spent the night there, which was a little bit more expensive cost. But it was absolutely stunning, and we got to be there without the crowds by spending the night on the island. So in the morning we left, and then we drove another couple hours, tried to get in the D-Day beaches, and we were pretty rushed, and we got to our bed and breakfast that night, and then the next morning we had a few hours to explore beaches again before we had to head back to the airport. So the last bit of our journey was a little bit rushed, and Nolan would have loved a lot more time to explore the beaches, and so that was a mistake we made. Because our favorite time was actually in Paris, because we just had a leisurely time, could enjoy everything without feeling rushed. So just don't give in to that I want to see everything. On our trip, we planned out every day, and we would lay out the cash for that day and tried to stay within our budget. And lo and behold, I left my folder with the money in it for that day at Mont Saint Michel, and we were gone about 40 minutes out. And we were left, and suddenly it hit me, I don't have the money for the day. We went tearing back, and they're like, no, we didn't see anything. And I know they took it, positive they took it, because it was nowhere else. So we actually lost a full day's budget, and we were still able to keep it as inexpensive as we did, with seeing all these great places and different of the good experiences we have that definitely were a little bit more pricey. And yeah, it was just an incredible trip. I just personally think traveling is such an incredible thing. It opens up your mind. It makes you realize how small your world actually is. If you only stay home in your own little area and your own little neck of the woods, and you never get out and meet new people and meet new cultures and see how people live in other parts of the world, your mind is just pretty small. And it also helps you just let go of the stresses of life, get to reconnect with your spouse or whoever you're traveling with, and it helps you just to rejuvenate. And when you get back into normal routine of life, you just feel refreshed and ready to hit it again And I just think traveling is something that anyone that has the remotest interest in traveling should definitely do it. So those are my 10 tips. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know below if you have any tips of your own that you'd like to share. I'm always loving to learn new ways to save money while traveling, because the more you can save when you travel, the more often you can travel. So let me know below if you have any tips or suggestions, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, I'd love to have you join our channel. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and happy travels. Bye.